760 WCCS and 101.1 FM. I have no idea what you were trying to tell me there seconds ago, Bob. But
well, we're not going to.
Okay, we're not going to go that direction at all?
No.
Bob Pollock is with us from the Extension Service. You can give us a call right now at 479-1160 or 349-WCCS if you have a question about lawns and gardens and things of that nature, and trees and shrubs and flowers, all of those things. You think we're past the frost stage? We usually get one more shot of frost, don't we? About this time
we should be. We should be. I think we're over the hump now.
Yeah, finally.
Yeah.
All right, so some crops will be starting to come on here soon.
Oh, yes.
And right away, somebody said, ask Bob about the strawberries, how they're coming along. So there I am.
They are.
What about the strawberries? Are they coming along?
They are coming along.
Yeah.
Good thing they were covered.
Yeah.
Because they would have, all the blossoms would have been removed.
Mm-hmm.
There was just a little bit of dead blossoms in there, even though they were covered. It got cold enough to do that, but for the most part, things are looking good and lots of blooms out there. And
so what's the
little
ETA
berries
on?
Forming?
What's the ETA on ripe plump berries?
Should be by the end of the month.
End of the month.
Yep.
This is when is today?
Well, we're at the 19th, so we're
so
within 2 weeks.
How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How time flies.
Josh was saying his mom and dad are headed out east for the rhubarb festival out Lancaster way. It's rhubarb season too, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, I was looking at the rhubarb plants down by the burn barrel.
And how are they looking?
They're looking good.
They should be.
They've got a little too much shade where they are, but that just means they come on later.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that they're
delayed a little bit.
Yeah. But they're fine this year. So rhubarb season is here and strawberry season is coming. It's that time of year, isn't it?
Yeah.
Folks are
asparagus season's here.
Yeah, and people are starting to think about getting out into their gardens and really working them now because the weather's just been too wet for them to do that.
It has been.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden we've had winds, sunshine, and warm temperatures, and that's really helped to dry the soil off so that you can get in there and work it properly. And and we talk about working the soil. We don't want to overwork the soil either.
What do you mean by that?
Even when the soil's dry, when you can, in the test we use to really tell if, and it's a pretty down and dirty one, simple, is the soil dry enough to work? And that's if you can grab a handful of it, squeeze it together, and then it easily comes apart. You know, it won't stay stuck in a ball. When there's moisture in it, of course, when there's enough moisture and if there's high enough clay content, of course, it'll stick pretty good. So, but when it's dry, it's going to fall apart again once you release the pressure from your hand.
Okay.
So that's what we're looking for, and we'll do the least amount of damage when that soil's drier to the soil structure.
When you start working it. Let's get to the phones. Good morning.
Morning. How you guys doing?
Very good.
Got a question for you. Well, actually, kind of a statement and a question. I had left a part of my garden to get a little bit overgrown with weeds last year, and I missed pulling out about 2 dozen onion sets, or onions, mature onions rather. Well, they were in the garden all through the winter, and when I was trying to work it up this year, they had come back up again like volunteers, and I shoveled them out, pulled them out because they were in tight, and they were really, really good. And I just wondered, my question is, can you put onion sets in the fall and then have like an early crop of onions in the spring?
It's an interesting question. His phone is a little bit fuzzy for us this morning, so I'll rephrase it for folks. Can you put onion sets in the fall and hope they'll come up in the spring like the volunteers do? I had some in mind.
Yeah, so those volunteers made it over winter, and so the winter wasn't that bad. It's still a gamble to do that. You can do it, but it does help. Well, in those weeds, the weed cover there, that probably helped because it gave them some protection as well. You probably wouldn't want to do that just out in the bare soil and not have them protected somehow. You know, you need straw or some sort of mulch to help kind of protect that a bit over the winter.
So if he insulates well enough, he should be able to get something out of it, but it's still not the best. The best idea?
Yeah, you probably won't get. You might get enough to eat
early in the season.
You know, but you're not going to grow the biggest, the best doing it that way, and then there's always a risk too that they'll get damaged. They may start and rot if we have too much freezing, thawing temperatures. You could get them; they could rot. So it's a gamble to do it, but on a small scale, you might want to
There you go.
try it and see how it works.
I got 2 to 3 dozen were pretty good. The only thing I found was that some of them wanted to develop a double bulb.
Yeah, and that sometimes happens too when the soil is tighter. They'll sometimes do that.
Those are called Siamese onions.
Okay. All right.
Twins.
There you go.
Doubles.
There you go. 479-1160 or 349-WCCS. You can give us a call and ask Bob your questions. That's an interesting one there. Haven't had that one before, have we?
Yeah, so, as seasons change, as temperatures in our winters and our climate changes, there's going to be things we may be able to do that we haven't been able to do in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes for things we're doing now. We may have to change how we're doing them to adapt to that, those changes. Because some plants are more adapted to the cold versus the warm, and others are the opposite.
Maybe accidentally on purpose leave a few in there and see how they do the next spring. All right, well, that makes sense. 7:53, it is Indiana in the morning. Now, we were talking about working up the garden and whether the soil is ready to be worked and not being overworked. So explain the not being overworked aspect of all of that.
When we work it too fine, if we're rototilling, we can work that soil so fine that it becomes powder. And then that's as bad as when it was too wet working it. In either case, we can ruin the structure of the soil so that when it gets too fine, then it can tend to compact. It'll tend to crust more. So you might have it all nice, all those chunks and everything smoothed out.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do that to an extreme where it's more powdery, then when we get a rain, so you seed various crops, and then say we get a rain, that settles that soil. A lot of times when it's that fine, then when that dries out again, it'll be crusted over on the top. And some plants those seeds will try to germinate, some will make it up through that, and some won't. So that's kind of the negative part of overworking things.
You remind me of a question somebody wanted me to ask you, and that was about grass seeding on damaged spots on the lawn. Some bare spots, and they actually had mushroom manure put down on it last fall when it was damaged. Okay. And they were expecting grass to come up through that mushroom manure, but evidently the equipment that had been on the lawn, the grass didn't come up. So tossed some seed on top of it, threw some water on top of it, and just let it go. It still hasn't sprouted. Is it going to, or do they need to water it more, or what must be done?
If no seed has germinated within a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, and as long as it was a mixture of seed that had annual or perennial ryegrass in it, that should have germinated within days to a week. Especially under the conditions we have now, where soil's warmer, air's warmer. Yeah. It's going to germinate quicker as long as it has moisture there for those seeds to take up that moisture and then germinate. And
what they're wondering is, do I just toss it on top of the grass of the ground and walk away, or do I try to work it down in?
Well, seeds need soil contact to germinate, so they need a little bit of moisture. They need contact with that soil so that they can germinate. A lot of times, if we just throw it on top and don't press it in, you can seed it. Grass seed is very small, so we don't want to bury it very deeply, no more than 2 times the diameter of the seed is the gauge we use for depth of seeding.
So toss it on there and take a walk on top of it.
Yeah. So really, you can, with grass seed, you can seed it, and you can just go over it. You could go over it with a roller, just something to firm it up. A lot of times, when you're doing spots, you can just take a hard rake, take the end of the rake, and just
tamp it down
a little bit. Firm it up is all we're trying to do. We're not trying to compact it, but we're just trying to firm it so that seed has contact with the soil, and that's what we're after. And then a little top dressing over that is fine. So a little bit of mushroom manure over top of that. You don't want to leave big clumps of that. You want to spread that mushroom manure out. I had a lot of practice at that when I was in high school.
Your hands get really stinky when you do that, too.
Yeah. We would have to do that we'd seed big yards, and we'd have to do that. We'd come in with wheelbarrows, and then you'd grab it by your hands, and you had to shake it out. so that it was a nice even layer over top of that seed,
Okay.
and it worked very well.
All right.
If you
There
get
go.
it too deep, it's not going to come up. The other thing, the question about seed, how old was the seed? Was the seed saved from last year or
I
the
think
year
it was
before?
it was new
Oh, okay.
from the store.
All right. So just try it again. And,
If it's still
double
just
check
if it's
there
still
was a
just laying
label
on
it.
top of there, they can just walk on it, right?
Yeah, just firm it up.
Okay.
Yep.
There
Make
you
sure
go.
it had a little moisture, and I'm not sure if it was too late in the fall. That might be why it didn't germinate last fall.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times, even if you do that late, you'll still get some germination in the spring.
Okay.
So
All right. And remember, boys and girls, May Mart today and tomorrow.
that's right. There you go.
S&T Bank Arena. Thank you, Josh. What's your name again? Bob Pollock. It's Indiana in the Morning, presented by First Commonwealth Bank. It's AM 1160 WCCS 101.1 FM.